I used to sell chicken on the street. I used to sell bags of chicken pieces. Do they want to hear, hey, I can help you how to get into a home? I can hold you by the hand, walk you through it, and make sure you get a home. I was happy to have the family I had. It was just, it was a hard time, but I didn't know any better. Always be in a good mood, always be ready to help. If you're going to lead a group or whatever, lead by example.
Hey, everybody, Ron Vaimberg here with this week's Originator Podcast, and I am incredibly excited to have Tony Ortega, longtime friend, longtime coaching client, and someone that I just have so much admiration for because of the things that he has accomplished. And it's not just about in the mortgage industry, but what he's accomplished in his life and also the story of his journey on how he got here. And I think anybody can learn from this. So with that, Tony, welcome to the podcast.
Ron, it's always a pleasure talking to you. As I normally say, it's always a pleasure for you
to talk to you. I know. And I'm sure the audience feels exactly the same way about that right now. And somehow I just knew you were going to say that. Tony, we've known each other for many, many years. We've seen each other at conferences and all sorts of things. It's an incredible relationship. And, I've interviewed you before, but on different things. But today it was actually something that came out of one of our coaching calls not too long ago. And it was just talking about, you were just talking about the disciplines that you have and like your non-negotiables in how you operate, not just in business, but in your life. And I remember, I'm like, that's something that we all need to hear because so many originators need to improve on those things. So many leaders, so many managers. And just, for context, Tony, you've been in the industry how long?
I started in the late 80s.
In the late 80s, you've been an originator, you've been a manager, and you're currently today a successful branch manager at Efinity Mortgage.
Yes, sir. I do have my own DBA, which is Casa Home Mortgage.
You do have your own DBA, Casa Home Mortgage. So Tony, let's go all the way back to the beginning. You were born where?
Mexico. Yes, a small village.
And I know you had, first of all, you had a father or parents that were very, basically no nonsense. So I know we're going to hear more about how that translated to you in your life. You've shared that with me. So why don't we just start from there and then your journey from Mexico to the U.S. and into the when you got to the U.S., I remember there were lessons that you learned there too. So let's start us in the beginning.
Well, I was born in a small village in Baja, California. I lived there until I was 8 years old.
Wait, Baja, California or Baja? I thought you were born in Mexico.
Baja.
But weren't you born in Mexico?
Baja, California is in Mexico.
Okay. All right. I just embarrassed myself on geography, but okay.
This is what I'm used to it. Right, I have to put up with you as much as you put up with me. So, but anyway, I was born in Baja. We left that small village in 1970. By that time, I had already had my first selling experiences. I used to sell chicken on the street. I used to sell bags of chicken pieces, and I used to go around, with the neighbors and some of my dad's, compadres, and I think that ever since I knew I was going to be in sales, I love working with people. I love talking to people. And there's a little story that helped me create who I am. I remember one day my dad gave me 5 bags of chicken. And he says, don't you leave any chicken unpaid. Because sometimes people say, leave me the chicken, I'll pay you later and whatever. Mm-hmm. So I was probably 6.5, 7 years old, and I went around, and one of my dad's compadres, who we knew he wasn't a good payer, he always get the chicken, always struggle getting the money back. So he convinced me to live in the bag, right? And to my dad's judgment, but again, I'm 6.5, 7 years old. I go back home. This is the summer, dude. This is the area where I live, Baja California or Mexicali, is one of the hottest areas in the state of actually the world, one of the hottest cities. We get to 120, 122. So this is the summer. I go back home. My dad counts the money and he says, "There's only 4 bags. I gave you 5." I said, "Dad," I said, I spoke to Carlos and he told me that he already paid you, that he doesn't owe you any money, and I left him the bag." He goes, "Oh, mijo," he says, "he hasn't paid me." Granted, he didn't send me back. He didn't tell me go back and get the chicken. I was just upset that this guy tried to pull a fast one on me, that I made the executive decision to go back. You know,
So your dad didn't send you back.
they didn't send me back. I
Right.
went back on my own. I just got out of the house, went back to the compadre's house, and I said, "Carlos, my dad just told me you haven't paid him the previous bags, so I want my chicken back." He says, "That's not going to be possible." I said, "Oh, yes, it is." He goes, "No, we're already cooking the chicken." I said, "I don't give up. This is what you do, Carlos. You put the chicken in a paper bag and then put a plastic bag, and then I'm taking my chicken." So I go home with my chicken, half half cooked chicken. So I tell my dad, "Here is your chicken." He goes, "Why? Why did you go back?" I go, "Because he didn't pay us. He didn't pay us." I go, "And he's not gonna get away with it." So he asked me to take it back, and my mom says, "No, no, he's not going back. There's a lesson for him, our son, and there's a lesson for our compadre." So 2 people learned today of what not to do. So I learned my lesson, and I think that's the story that I can actually think and go back and say, "This is what I want to do. This is I want to be talking to people. I want to work with people because there are certain things that they're not negotiables. Once you commit to something, whether it's you giving or you're receiving, you have to stick to it. You have to stick to the plan in order for it to work." So we moved to Mexicali. I've lived there up to 8 years. Moved to Los Angeles in 1978. Uh, I worked at McDonald's. I worked as a gardener. I worked in construction. I worked in an iron. We used to iron clothes at a sweatshop, or whatever they used to call them. 3 cents, I think, per piece, and I was 16 years old. Um, so I did a lot of the things that most people do in my situation. We start from the bottom, but I never took my eye that one of the things I used to tell my mom is that I didn't want to have a work where I will get dirt in my nails. You know, as life turns, I ended up working for my dad's compadre who didn't pay the chicken a few years before. But already as a teenager, I was 16 when I ended up working with him in Los Angeles.
Right.
That's how life. That's the beauty of life. That you go through when you're 7, 6.5 years old, and then 10 years later, you're dealing with the same character. So
Full circle.
he used to tell me just out of joking around. There's the boy with the chicken, and this is it. There's the man doesn't pay. So I got into banking in 1981. I was 18 years old. I started working to help my parents, and I started in the stockroom. I started working in the stockroom. I used to be a stockler, but I kept going to college. I got married when I was 19. Uh, Believe it or not, the oldest of 6 siblings to get married. I was the oldest at 19.
Wow.
I became a dad at 21, and I was the oldest in my family to become a dad. So I started in the stockroom, but again, I never took the eye that I didn't want to have dirt in my nails.
Mhm.
I kept going to got my GED, went to junior college, and got my associates in business management. Um, I got into the actual mortgage division. From the stockroom, I went to becoming moved to the print shop. I became the manager of the print shop, but I wanted more. Uh, I wanted to make my parents proud. And also I was raised in my family. Was being married with my wife, and I wanted to make sure that they had some of the things, and I hate to say some of the things I didn't have, because even in a small village where I used to sell chickens, honestly, dude, I never wanted to have what other people have. I was just happy. I was happy to have the family I had. Uh, it was just, it was a hard time, but I didn't know any better. I didn't
I
know
want
any
to ask
better.
a question because this I
Mhm.
know, and I'm learning even more about you after all these years, but I want to jump in and ask a question. You said, you don't want to have what everybody else has. Okay. So just quick side note, and then we'll come back. You have multiple cars. Okay. And which is your favorite one to drive?
Uh, is 1959 Ford Custom 300.
Okay. And that's a car that you bought that basically was not even really running, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
And you completely refurbished that car and you refurbished that car.
Well, with the help of others. I'm not a
With the
mechanic.
help of others, fair enough. But you didn't send it off to have it done. You
No,
did.
I will tell you that we're not gonna lie here, man. I
Okay.
did. I had people work on that car. I do minor stuff on it. Uh,
Okay, then that's the part that I was confusing because
yeah.
you've talked to me about that. You've been working on your car. So
Yeah, I do things that anybody can, or most people can. I wouldn't be able to paint it, or to do body work, or work on the engine when it has a major problem. But
especially
changing
because you'll get your nails dirty.
well, that's an exception, I think. That's the exception to the rule. And going back to not having what everybody has, I think I fell in love with that car because everybody is the same type of car that I had when I was in high school. The first car that I ever bought cost me $600, and I was making it was installments, $25 a month, and it was exactly the same car. I put it back to the same colors, and it's a car that hardly anybody has. And again, I go back to having something that nobody else has, or that not many people have. Everybody has Mustangs, Camaros, Challengers, and Chargers, and all that type of deal. To me, it was just look for something that you really like that is not what everybody has. And the same thing applies to my business, as you know, and you criticize me. I don't use the CRM. I've been in this business for over 40 years, and I don't use the CRM, and that's what
I
everybody.
don't criticize you. I try to redirect you, but you're stubborn.
So it's just the way it is. And then one of my compadres, Caesar, who he goes, well, you don't use a CRM, but you're always posting. Your CRM is your Facebook, is your social media. That's where you get a lot of the people to call you back. And I started thinking about it, and it is true, because a lot of the customers that I did in the past, they go, hey, I find you back on Facebook, Tony. You did a loan for me 15, 20 years ago, and I find you on Facebook. So it does work as a CRM if you stay proactive.
Hey,
Um,
bro.
uh, CRM has a lot of value, and I think you and I have shared that, but you have to be in it all the time. In I seen people, and I mentioned this to you, and again, I'm saying this with all the respect for everybody who uses the CRM. Sometimes you become a junkie of the CRM. You go in, you open it first thing in the morning, and you're hoping that you're going to get somebody from there. My career has always been with realtors. Always. I've always worked with realtors. Uh, and that's what brought me. Or has done. I don't consider myself, believe it or not, I don't consider myself a top producer. I really don't. I really don't. Yet when I get some people that want me to go work for them, I don't know the company. Well, we've seen your numbers, you're a top producer, and I'm like, no, I'm not. It's just I do well, but I don't. I see other people with much more value than I do. But then you look at the national standards, and somebody closing 5 loans a month is in the top 1%.
Because of the things that you've done, there's times where you've closed, and we're not talking about COVID, where you've closed much higher numbers. And there were times where you're making changes to your business where your numbers still put you in the top producer category, but it was nowhere near what you were truly capable of. And so I want to kind of bring it full circle. And I interview the people who are, their names are in the lights and everything else. And then I also love to interview or bring on guests who just they're great things about them. They are, they're humble. And I'm not saying that all people at the top are not humble, not at all. I know I coach a number of great people at the top. They're awesome. But there are many more people in the industry that are just hardworking, doing what needs to be done, making a great living, and flying under the radar. And that is you. And so I want to get to the discipline part before, because we could talk, you and I could talk for hours. The discipline part, your story, it makes sense. And at this point right now, you've shared you don't need to be doing this anymore. You don't have to work anymore. How many properties do you own right now?
We do own a few.
Okay.
We do own a few, and you're right. I don't have to do it, but honestly, I love it. I really, really love it. When we talk about discipline, and what prompted this is because we were talking about what some of the things that I do on a daily basis, and I mentioned to you that I learned from one of my first mentor, Terry Munns, years and years ago. That there were a couple of loan officers in the company. I was doing good, he was coming in, and I'm always in a good mood, and I'm always trying to keep a positive attitude. That's how I was raised, and that's just my personality. That's how I was wired. And then I started paying attention to two loan officers that they used to go in early, and they started looking at the market. And if the market tanked, their attitude was, I didn't realize that until later, So they don't come in and look at the market. And I thought, man, maybe I should be like them. I says, maybe I should start paying attention to the market. Then like 2 months went by, and my boss noticed that. I go, dude, he says, now you're not as excited as you were before. What happened? He says, well, I started paying attention to the market, and sometimes I feel great because the market moved down a quarter of a point, and now I feel bad because it went down a quarter of a point. He goes, pay attention to those two guys, Tony. Their mood, the way they sell, is set by how the market is doing. While before you used to come in and you were just selling, and that to me, again, it was setting it set a precedent on me. Not that it's not important to take a look at the market, but the message to me that I got, what people want to know more. Do they want to know what the market did in the last 3 weeks, and that it moved 1/16th or an eighth of a point? And sometimes the market will move 1/16, which has no impact in our rate, but yet it's at your mood. It's negative. It went down 16 of an inch, and it doesn't change because the rate changes in eighths. Or do they want to hear, hey, I can help you how to get into a home. I can hold you by the hand, walk you through it, and make sure you get a home, whether it's in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or 120 days. This is, that's the message that you were given, and that's the message you got to do. And again, I didn't get stuck in there for probably 2 months, but I can see that it's easy to get hooked into something and be part of a little group. Now, all of a sudden, that wolf pack of two was now wolf pack of three. Well, 2 months later, they were back to being a wolf pack of two because I didn't like it. And that's one of the things that I've always made a habit. Always be in a good mood, always be ready to help. If you're going to lead a group or whatever, lead by example. Lead by some of the things that you do. Am I great? And you know this. I do pay attention to the market, but when people say, "What do you think about the bottom 10-year?" I'm like, and that's the question you made a comment. I said, "Well, you care less about the 10-year bond. All I can tell you is that this month I got 50 referrals, and I'm trying to make as many, trying to close as many loans as I can from them, trying to convert them, and those are conversations to me that I wouldn't engage with the client. I don't engage with clients talking about statistics. When I see people, and again, nothing wrong, and I have a lot of respect for people that take their time. When people say, well, this is what the market is doing in the United States, and this is what people are buying in the United States. Well, I live in Yuma. In Yuma, there's still a lot of construction. So when people post things on social media talking about so much percentage of new construction in the country, and I'm like, well, in Yuma, if I close 12 loans, 4 of them are new construction.
And well, you just brought up a very good point, and that is there are statistics, and the vast majority of the statistics are national statistics. And I find time and time again that very few originators will ever take the time to look at what's going on in their market, talking about their local market. And if you don't, this would be my coaching tip of the day. And that is, if you don't know what the numbers are in your local market, then you actually make it harder for yourself to counteract anything that is being said in the media. Because if the media is talking about it, you could try to fight the media, or you could say, that's what the media is talking about, but let me tell you what's going on here in our town or our city or our county or whatever, or our region or what have you, and back that up and makes it easier. You have a lot of what I call non-negotiables. Again, coming back to discipline, non-negotiables, things that just, there is no gray area. It's black and white. It's either this or no. And what are those things that you believe allow you to grow, prosper, and be in control, which is one of the things that so many originators come to me for, that they're just struggling to keep control. Their time is all over the place. And I know that that's not an issue for you.
Being true to yourself, being who you are, and don't change that. Keep your nose clean. There's a lot of files to be done. Don't get involved in things that you shouldn't. I'm an early riser. There's no negotiable. I like to get up early. I like to do whether it is walking with my wife or whether, I like to start my day early. I don't mind being the first one coming in as far as the loan officers, and I don't mind being the last one going home. I do. I follow up on my calls. And as I mentioned to you in the past, I don't have a set time. I do it when I feel like to, but I do make my calls every week. And I'm glad, or I'm happy that I have one of my realtors that gives me a lot of business. We get together twice a month and we follow up on the people that we talk to. So those are non-negotiables. Not following up with people is a huge non-negotiable. Being an early riser, is non-negotiable. I come in early. I start looking at what people that I pre-qualified. Look at the numbers. If I need to call somebody about locking a rate, I already have my information when I call them. If I need to talk to somebody who we're trying to get into a contract, I already have my numbers when I call that customer. Hey, I'm calling you, but these are the scenarios that I have for you, and this is what we can do for you.
So non-negotiables, being prepared.
Being prepared and always learning that in the office they call me Mr. Google, because if I don't know something, I'm not I like to find the answer. I was taught by my first mentor, and in Mexico this is how they teach you a lot when you're here. When I was in school, if you see it or if you read it, if you hear it and you say it, it's going to stick with you longer. As when we ask somebody for the answer and you never research it, you're probably going to get it after 20 times that they tell you, and 19 of those times they're going to say, Ron, I already mentioned that to you 19 times.
Right. Exactly. Okay.
So those are not non-negotiables. And I'll say the biggest one, and it's going to sound like a cliche, customer service. If you take care of your customers, they will keep sending you business. We talk sometimes about when people say, well, money is not everything. Of course, money is not everything, but it's a huge, important part of everybody's life. You go buy a cup of coffee, you pay for it. You go get your hair done, well, now you pay for it.
You're not far behind me, buddy. So let's just be clear on that.
You buy a car and you pay for it. So I always tell people, money's right there, but your priority has to be your client. If you take care of your client, that money's coming. And we talked about it.
Well,
Same thing you do. You take care of your clients, and here we are. I'm with you almost 16 years. And you've always been a great help. You've always been not only just a motivator, but you always find the way to help me get to where I want. You help me build my team. Now I have a team. That's another thing that I would recommend to people. Trust your team that they're going to get done. Sometimes loan officers don't trust their team and they're always involved, and I want to produce more, but I'm so involved with my loans. Have faith that your team is going to get you there. Are there going to be problems? You're damn right. They will have an issue here and there, but release those responsibilities to them, because they can tell you don't trust them.
But one thing that I've always noticed, that no matter what is happening, not the market, there's things are going great. There are issues within your team or what have you. You might be frustrated or what have you, but you always remain very even keel, where basically a lot of people with some of the things that we've talked through would be using F-bombs and S-bombs all over the place to describe what the bike is going on. And you're just like, and that's, that to me epitomizes your discipline. So my question for you is, we all have those emotions. What is it that either you've trained yourself to tell yourself at that moment in time, what do you do to keep yourself in the optimum state to not get overly frustrated and to keep focused on the challenge or problem in front of you, regardless of how severe it is and what's happening? That's a lesson I think everybody can learn from, because a lot of people, and once in a while, me too, I lose my head, and it takes me, my wife's great at getting me back on track with that. But usually at this point, I catch myself and I'm like, what the blank am I doing? We're focusing on the wrong thing. What's your formula?
I think, and I learned this from my parents. Don't make decisions with your heart, with your head. Think about it before. When we get emotional, when we start, throwing bombs and stuff, you get emotional and you don't think about the right answer. It takes you longer to come up with the answer, as if you stay focused and believe it or not, and it may sound bad, and you say, you know what, I want to be the star of this movie. I'm going to fix it. So I'm going to stay chill, and I'm going to show everybody around that there's a solution, and it's a lot easier than what they think. So whenever a deal goes wrong, or is trying, because I hardly ever, we haven't ever not closed it on, I let everybody get excited, and I'm like, let's chill, smoke a J. Relax and get it done, because we make better decisions when we're calm.
There's a quote, just before we wrap up, there's a quote that I heard a long time ago, and it's so true. I don't remember who said it. The more emotional we get, the dumber we get. And it's very true. And I have things in my life that I can sit there and say, yep, I'm living proof of that. I think we all can.
Yep.
Final thing before we go. There's something that you said a little over a year ago. Maybe even been around this time. And you were able to show me this. I don't know if you can. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about in a second. But you said, Ron, we don't work hard. Let me show you who works hard. Are you able to do that now, or do you just have to describe it?
No, I was at home.
Oh, you're at home.
And where I live, there's some fields of lettuce fields. Then as the summer comes in, then they grow soybean or wheat. I say wheat now, wheat. Okay. And but I always tell people, when they say, "Well, you work a lot or you work hard," no, we don't. We don't. We work a lot of hours. And the picture that I showed, Ron, it was field workers actually picking up ladders. That's a hard work, because those people go in at 4:30 in the morning, and they go home at 6:30 in the afternoon. To me, that's hard work.
And
not what we do.
he was on his phone, and he walked his phone. He goes, let me show you something. He didn't even tell me he was going to show me. He goes, let me show you something. He goes, can you see out there? And I saw people out there, but I couldn't see what they were doing. And he goes, they're picking lettuce. They're working hard. I work a lot of hours. Mm-hmm. They work hard. And they also get their hands dirty. And, and that is something that really stuck with me, because it's even funny, my mom has spent some time staying with us or what have you. And my wife and I, we are in our offices a lot of hours. We're doing what we got to do. And she goes, you both work so hard. And I used to say, no, Ma, I started saying, I go, Ma, I don't work hard. I just work a lot. And that was really what I had gotten from you. She said, no, you really work hard. And I finally just realized, yeah, let her say it. I'm going to leave it alone. She's 94 years old. I'm not going to sit here and change anything. But that is something that you said to me that really put it in perspective, because I've said, when people say, I'm just exhausted, I go, were you out digging ditches all day? I go in 95-degree heat. And then I'll ask people this question. I'll say, were you out there working in a ditch, working on paving a highway, whatever it is, in 100-degree heat? And they're like, no. I go, I'll tell you why you're exhausted, especially because I know they didn't do what they were supposed to do. I go, you're exhausted because your brain, either consciously or subconsciously, spent the whole day or a good portion of the day trying to figure out a way to make the money you want to make without doing the work you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And every single time, 100 out of 100 times, the person says, you're right. And I'm sure some of you watching this podcast right now are right. Tony, here's your final question. Okay. Again, you're not big on the interview circuit or what have you. What is something that you've never told in this kind of format, like to an audience or what have you? What is something you've never told someone about you?
I may not have shared this. I wanted to trade my younger brother for a horse. Because there was a guy that used to go to the house and sell us vegetables and milk. And I mean, there was like almost 4 years between my brother and I by the time he was born. So I was really jealous of him. And I wanted to trade him. Like, you have no idea.
Did you start the process of trying to trade him?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you have a discussion, or was it just in your head?
No. I used to tell the guy to give me the horse and take my brother. So it was... Till this day, my mom, reminds me that I wanted to trade my younger brother.
That is
of course, he doesn't think it's funny, yeah.
Well, I think the rest of us do.
Oh, no. And the good thing is that my brother is still alive. The horse would have been dead by now. So there
you go. Great way to turn it. I'm so
grateful for that. It's just it's my brother, and I love him a lot.
Great, Tony. Great. That's an awesome finish. Tony, love you. Awesome for being on the program. Thank you so much for doing this today. And
Thank you.
I'm sure our audience thanks you. And we'll see you on the next one.
We will.
All right. Wait, Tony, you got to finish our call the way you always finish. Ron,
the pleasure was yours.
The pleasure was mine. We will see you later, Tony. Take care.